Chapter 1. Reunion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Editor. Noodletown translated. A red taxi stopped at the front doors of Kempinski Hotel, and a young woman, who appeared to be in her early 20s, stepped out from the vehicle. She was in a simple white cotton dress, and her long hair was loosely curled. Her look was neither gaudy nor lavish, it was simple, yet fully capable of withstanding any scrutiny. Her makeup was likewise applied lightly, and she clutched a white handbag in her hand. This, paired with a pair of plain black heels, made her look like a goddess from a secluded and peaceful oasis. Her beauty wasn't the type to awe the masses, but her facial features were delicate and easy to remember. She gave others the feeling of being caressed by a gentle spring wind. There were such women in the world, whose beauty was not stunning but still enchanting all the same. And it just so happened that Huamian was one of those few women, who could captivate those around her with her unique presence. "Oh my, Huamian, you're here. Hurry upstairs to the peony room on the second floor. Everyone's waiting there. If they knew you came, they'd all be overjoyed." At the door, old classmates who were in charge of welcoming guests gave her directions with warm smiles. Huamian nodded, returning the smile as she made her way slowly towards the second floor. She didn't know why, but she felt an unplaceable sense of unease bubbling up inside of her. This was a feeling that she hadn't had in a very long time. Truth be told, she rarely attended these high-school reunions. It wasn't that Huamian was unsociable, or that she thought she was too good for them. Only that, during those 3 years of high school, someone left such a deep mark in her heart and soul that she had subconsciously avoided all of these events. This time, she only chose to attend because her high school homeroom teacher personally called and invited her. Ms. Yao was over 60 years old and had retired a long time ago. From what Huamian heard, she immigrated to New Zealand with her daughter some time ago. But now, not only did she suddenly return to the country, she also organized this reunion. Huamian really had no reason to refuse. Although she was never the type of student that caught the teacher's attention through academics, she was as fond of Ms. Yao as her old classmates were. Besides, that person's been missing for 7 years. There is no way he will show up for this reunion, right? Reassuring herself, Huamian struggled to suppress her unease. When she finally pushed through the door, there were already 20 or so people inside. Hearing the door open, they all looked over at the entrance and saw Huamian smiling timidly. "Hi, everyone. It's been a while," she greeted. "Hey, if it isn't the beautiful Miss Hua, what a surprise that you actually came to a reunion." "Hell must be freezing over," one of her female classmates said in a mocking tone. Huamian smiled awkwardly and didn't reply. Just then, the class president, Han Su, stood up and walked over with a warm greeting. "Huamian. It's been a while, everyone missed you. How are you doing these days?" "Oh, I'm doing well, class president." Huamian looked around the room. When she didn't see the homeroom teacher, she couldn't stop herself from asking, "Where's Ms. Yao?" "Ah, Ms. Yao just called and said that she's stuck in traffic. She'll be here soon. Come on, take a seat first." Huamian nodded. Finding a quiet corner, she sat down and listened to the loud banter of the classmates around her. It had been many years since they graduated from high school, and everyone had changed. Some were now famous entrepreneurs, some were working for the government, and some others had gone to study abroad. All in all, compared to these people, the girl who'd once been touted as a genius with an IQ of 130 could not appear any more ordinary right now. After graduating high school, she rejected colleges in the capital city and surprised everyone when she applied to the nursing school at a local medical academy. After graduation, she went directly into the provincial hospital to become a nursing intern, signing a 3-year contract. Now, she had a stable relationship with an intern in the ophthalmology department of the hospital where she worked. Although his family background was fairly average, he had a decent future ahead of him. Huamian felt that she could ask nothing more from this life. She didn't wish for wealth and fortune, only stability and security. Then, someone suddenly patted her back. Startled, Huamian turned around. Chapter 2. The Man of Her Dreams. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Translator. Noodletown translated editor. Noodletown translated. Huamian sighed in relief when she saw who it was. Lingling, are you trying to scare me to death? Hey, I thought we agreed that you'd wait for me by the doors first so we can come in together. I can't believe you ran in before me, Lingling said as she pulled up a chair and sat next to Huamian. I was going to wait for you, but I saw an old classmate by the door. He said that everyone was upstairs, so I came up. Huamian smiled gently. The one that greeted her was Zhu Lingling, her best friend since high school, who was now a flight attendant for an international airline. She was a pretty girl and was Huamian's only close girlfriend. Like Huamian, she was amiable and exceptionally kind-hearted. Lingling, I thought you've been busy recently. How can I not be busy? I'm super busy. We were supposed to fly to Xing City today, but I didn't want to miss our reunion, so I asked a colleague to cover my shift. Oh hey, where's your doctor? Why didn't you bring him? He had a surgery scheduled today so he couldn't make it. Not bad, not bad. I see a bright and promising future for him. By the way, how's your house hunting going? We're getting there. Out of the 3 apartments that we went to see, there was one that we both liked. We're going to talk to his parents about it before making a final decision. Wow, that's fast. Where is it located? Buying a new place is a big deal, so you'd better think it through first, Zhu Lingling said. It's on 3rd Ring Road, so it takes a little over 20 minutes to get to work by bus. It's pretty convenient, Huamian replied as she smiled faintly. Nice, I heard that apartments on 3rd Ring Road are worth an average of 8,000 yuan per square meter. Your boyfriend must have some savings then. Zhu Lingling exclaimed in admiration. It's not going to be a one-time payment. We're just placing a down payment for now, and the 2 of us will slowly pay off the rest of the mortgage. We're still young, and have plenty of time. So, after buying the apartment, are you guys going to get married? Zhu Lingling asked as she reached out to hold Huamian's hand. Yes, it seems so, if nothing unexpected happens. Huamian nodded. Mian. Yeah. Are you sure that you're willing to get married, just like this? Zhu Lingling suddenly asked, with a serious expression on her face. Well, at this point, does it matter if I'm willing or not? Mian, you know why I'm asking. Have you really forgotten about him? Zhu Lingling lowered her voice down to a whisper, but Huamian still heard every word clearly. A trace of sadness appeared in her eyes, with a hint of almost undetectable heartache. What's the point? So what if I'm not willing? This is how my life is supposed to be, and I've surrendered to it. I surrendered 7 years ago, Huamian said as she smiled bitterly. Just as Zhu Lingling was about to say something else, the doors of the private room opened, prompting everyone to stand up immediately. Huamian and Zhu Lingling followed and looked towards the entrance. To her satisfaction, she saw their old homeroom teacher, Ms. Yao, whose hair was now graying, and, standing beside their teacher was, him. The man who disappeared 7 years ago, the man who used to be the most important person in Huamian's life. It was like a dream for him to appear in front of her like this, giving her no time to prepare herself at all. Huamian's entire body went numb, and her brain blanked out. Chapter 3. Anxiety. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Translator. Noodletown translated editor. Noodletown translated, oh God, did I see it right? That person that is that Qin Chu. A girl's surprised shriek came from the crowd, grabbing everybody's attention from the shock they were previously in. Qin Chu, that really is Qin Chu, another girl repeated those words excitedly. Huamian was completely stunned as she gazed at the silhouette by the door. That person stood out more so today than he did all those years ago. The glow radiating off of his body made it impossible for one to ignore him or look away. He was 185 centimeters tall, clothed in a black dress shirt and black pants. However, his simple outfit and neat, short hair looked dazzling on him. Those chiseled cheeks, sharp nose, thin lips, and deep eyes had appeared in Huamian's dreams countless times. Now that she had seen him in person, she was speechless. At that moment, she felt as if her heart was about to pop out of her chest. Mian, what did I just say? Speak of the devil and he shall appear. This situation is so cheesy that it could be from a soap opera, Zhu Lingling said to Huamian after she recovered from the initial shock, gently brushing Huamian's arm. But, Huamian was completely unresponsive. Her gaze and thoughts were unmoved and still lingered on Qin Chu. That man's appearance was untouched by the 7 years that had gone by, other than the appearance of a hint of maturity and resilience in his facial features, indicating the passing of time. The corners of his lips formed a slight smile, which was unlike the younger and colder Qin Chu, who would never let such an expression show. Was it he that had changed? Or was it time that did? Qin Chu scanned the room, but his gaze did not falter when it passed by Huamian, treating her like all the other classmates. An inexplicable feeling of disappointment stung Huamian's heart. It's been a while, Qin Chu said after skimming the room. Oh God, my darling, are you really back? Am I dreaming? Where have you been all these years? Lu Xiying asked in excitement as she dashed towards Qin Chu. Everybody knew that Lu Xiying was crazily infatuated with Qin Chu back in high school. He was the reason she did not speak to Huamian, not even once, throughout high school. She regarded Huamian as her arch-nemesis back then, and the relationship was still no better 7 years later. As soon as she saw Qin Chu in the flesh, she did not hold back and jumped at him like a starving dog chasing after a bone. The other girls surrounded Qin Chu as well, as everyone loved dreamy boys like him. I've been studying in the United States this whole time, Qin Chu casually said in response to everyone's inquisitions. It had been a whole 7 years since Qin Chu disappeared completely. Nobody, not even his high school sweetheart, Huamian, knew where he had gone. At that moment, the class president, Han Su, walked up with a smile on his face and said, "It's good to have you back. This must be the closest we've had to a complete class. Come, Ms. Yao, please be seated. We can talk while we eat." Ms. Yao was helped into the main seat by Qin Chu before he seated himself in the chair to her right. Just as Han Su was about to sit down in the chair to Ms. Yao's left, he heard her call Huamian's name. "Ms. Yao." Huamian answered as she stood up. "Come and sit beside me." Ms. Yao gestured for her to come. Han Su was mortified. Luckily, he reacted quickly and followed Ms. Yao's words. "Come here, Mian. It's been so long since she last saw you. Why don't you come sit here and catch up?" Huamian nodded and walked closer, despite her unwillingness to do so. With every step, her heart trembled harder. She was approaching Qin Chu step by step. It might have been that she was too nervous, because as soon as she sat down, she knocked over the wine glass, shattering it on the floor. Chapter 4. Forced Kiss. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Translator. Noodletown Translated Editor. Noodletown translated, "I'm so sorry." Huamian quickly apologized. During the commotion, someone handed her a piece of napkin which she used to clean the edge of her dress. It was only after she raised her head that she realized that it was Qin Chu. "Thank you," she spoke with a distant tone as if she had put their past relationship behind her. Qin Chu didn't respond. He casually chatted with the other classmates and seemed to have turned his attention away from her. This continued until Lu Xiying purposely asked loudly in front of all of their classmates, "Oh yeah, Huamian, I heard that you are getting married soon. Your fiancé is a doctor, right? Good for you. Don't forget to invite us to your wedding." After all, we were classmates. After her words, the entire room fell dead silent as everyone watched Chin Chu's reaction closely. Not yet. Our families are still discussing it, but I will notify everyone once we decide on a date, Huamian said with a bashful smile. Suddenly, she felt a piercing glance towards her. You are getting married. After a moment of silence, Chin Chu finally spoke to her for the first time. Huamian nodded. For some reason, out of fear or nervousness, she couldn't even say the word yes. Oh, congratulations. There was a smile on his face, but his gaze was icy cold. Thank you, said Huamian politely with awkwardness. She didn't dare to look directly at Chin Chu as his smile was too oppressive. She had imagined their encounter numerous times, but she never expected them to meet in this situation. At this thought, she was once again flustered. It's such a pity. Back in the day, Huamian was one of the prettiest girls in school. I always thought that you would marry into a rich or influential family, but I never expected you to settle down so soon. Huh, what a pity. If I knew this would happen, I would have asked you out. Huh, why don't you consider me instead? Wei Dong said half-jokingly. He had always been a troublemaker during high school and had already had a few drinks. Wei Dong came from a well-off family, and his father was in the construction business. With the booming real estate industry over the past few years, he was doing quite well following his father. Thus, during gatherings, he was always confident, even when he joked. Zhu Lingling immediately rolled her eyes at him and said, "Give me a break. You have no chance. You already lost to Prince Charming Qin when we were in school. How could you win Huamian's heart now?" Before she finished, Zhu Lingling suddenly realized that she had touched a forbidden territory, so she quickly shut her mouth. The relationship between Chin Chu and Huamian seemed to have turned into the plot from Jay Chou's movie. Secret. Chin Chu showed no reaction to Zhu Lingling's words. He simply continued to stare at Huamian with a piercing gaze. Huamian smiled awkwardly before standing up. She said, excuse me, I need to use the washroom." In reality, there was a washroom inside the private room they were in. Huamian simply wanted to find an excuse to escape from this situation, or, more specifically, from Chin Chu. After Huamian walked out of the dining room, she started to breathe heavily. She could even hear her heart rate accelerating. Huamian never thought that she would re-encounter Chin Chu under such circumstances. It had already been 7 years, and his sudden appearance caught her by complete surprise. After she calmed down a little in the washroom, she touched up her makeup before walking out with her head down. But before she knew what was happening, she was pushed against the wall by a large hand. Then, those icy lips suddenly approached her, and the foreign yet familiar presence caused Huamian's brain to immediately short-circuit. Chapter 5. Entanglement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Noodletown translated. Editor. Noodletown translated. Before Huamian had the chance to push him away, he suddenly let go of her hands. A wickedly alluring smile appeared on his face as he lifted Huamian's cheek. With a magnetic voice, he said, "Huamian, I'm back." Huamian slightly trembled when she heard this familiar voice, and as she looked into his evocative eyes, the things that she had been suppressing for so long seemed to have resurfaced from deep within her. She couldn't even remember how rushed she was as she left the washroom, or how she fumbled around to open the door. She only knew that she was in a complete daze. "Mian, what's wrong? Why is your face so pale?" Zhu Lingling stood up in a hurry to help Huamian. "I'm fine." Huamian's face was extremely pale even when she said nothing was wrong. After a moment of thought, she decided to leave. Huamian carefully leaned toward Ms. Yao, and spoke into her ear, "Ms. Yao, I'm sorry, but I have to leave now. I'll come by on my own and visit you some other time." Ms. Yao looked at Huamian profoundly and nodded, "Okay, be careful on your way back." Huamian didn't care about anyone else's gaze as she grabbed her bag and left. Her exit was so abrupt that she even confused Zhu Lingling. Hua Mian is so arrogant and fake, she has never attended any of the high school reunions. What a show. I knew something was up when she agreed to come this time. She must have found out in advance that Qin Chu would be here as well, and now she's going to leave in advance just to seduce him. What a scheming opportunist. She used the same cat and mouse trick to seduce Qin Chu back then, and now she's doing it again. She makes me sick, cursed Lu Xiying non-stop. The other classmates had no comments to make, because 7 years had passed since the events between Qin Chu and Hua Mian took place. Hua Mian knew that Qin Chu was too dangerous, and she felt the same bewilderment as she did back then. She thought that she had forgotten everything long ago, but who knew the same feelings would come back when she saw him today. Memories poured out of her mind like a flood rushing out of a broken dam. Many things happened on the night of their graduation 7 years ago, and she once believed that she would never see Qin Chu again. Later on, this man mysteriously disappeared, and no one knew where he had gone. Now, he suddenly returned like magic. It was unbelievable. Hua Mian lived in the ordinary world, so how could she possibly withstand this kind of torment? No matter what, Hua Mian wouldn't dare to interact with Qin Chu again. Just like 7 years ago, no matter how much they loved each other, they could never be together because they were from completely different worlds. In addition, she didn't think that they would cross paths again after that incident. After all that she had been through, her only dream now was to marry a stable man and live a comfortable life for all of her remaining years. After she left the hotel and got into a taxi, her phone began ringing non-stop, and the calls were all from Zhu Lingling. Hua Mian didn't pick up because she had no clue what to say. Her mind was scattered as if she had lost the ability to think. It was close to 11 when she returned to where she lived. Hua Mian opened the door and it was completely dark inside. After turning on the lights, she noticed that no one was inside or outside of the bedroom. It seemed like Ning Ziyuan hadn't gotten off from his night shift yet. Her boyfriend, Ning Ziyuan, rented this 2-bedroom apartment after they both graduated. She lived here as well because it was easier to take care of Ning Ziyuan, and also since it was close to the hospital she worked at. There was no need to take the bus and they could sleep in for a bit longer. The environment was very pleasant, and the rent was also within their budget. Hua Mian always thought that it would be great to live here until they bought their own place. Plus, with Ning Ziyuan around, Hua Mian already felt hints of the warmth of a home. They've been together for quite a long time now, but truth be told, Hua Mian was aware that most of their sentiments were more of mutual reliance than of love. Hua Mian took a quick hot shower, changed into her pajamas, and returned to her bedroom to rest. Just then, her phone suddenly began to ring, and she looked over to see an unfamiliar number. Chapter 6. The proposal. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Translator. Noodletown translated. Editor. Noodletown translated. Hello. Hello. Who is this? I'm hanging up the phone if you're not going to say anything. Hua Mian felt a bit annoyed. Maybe they dialed the wrong number. Just as she was about to hang up, she heard a familiar voice. Why are you avoiding me? The voice spoke through the phone. Qin Chu. Hua Mian replied, her voice shaking. Why are you avoiding me? Qin Chu repeated the question that she didn't want to answer from the other end of the line. Qin Chu, can you stop this nonsense? We broke up 7 years ago, I'm downstairs. Qin Chu interrupted, immediately hanging up the phone before she could respond. How does he know my address? Was it that big mouth, Zhu Lingling, blabbering again? Hua Mian thought. Thinking back to the event in the washroom, Hua Mian really didn't want to go downstairs. She had no intention of seeing him. But if I don't go downstairs, would he keep waiting? Will he run into Ning Ziyuan when Ziyuan returns home? Hua Mian wrapped herself in a jacket as possible scenarios played out in her head. After a moment of hesitation, she unwillingly made her way downstairs. Sure enough, Qin Chu was downstairs with his back against a silver Audi R8, holding a lit cigarette between his fingers. Qin Chu, what do you want? Hua Mian walked over to the man, glaring at him. Lifting his head, Qin Chu intensely gazed at Hua Mian. It was those damn eyes again, the kind that made her feel as if she was the only girl he could see, as if he was still doting on her like how he used to. Mian, you're still the same as before. You haven't changed a bit. Qin Chu gazed at her without blinking, his eyes full of emotions that were too complicated to explain. With a bitter smile, Hua Mian responded, you're wrong, people do change. Qin Chu, regardless of what you're after, I hope that you can let go of the past. I'm tired, and I don't want the trouble anymore. Plus, we both have our own lives now, so could you please stop acting so crazily? I'm not crazy. I've never been saner, Qin Chu said with the utmost sincerity. Then why are you doing this? Just to reminisce with me. Hua Mian scoffed. Qin Chu's eyes sparkled as he gazed deeply into her eyes. He then said faintly, Hua Mian, marry me. Hua Mian almost lost her mind upon hearing those words. You disappeared for 7 years, and the first thing that you do when you come back is proposing to me. Chapter 7. Encounter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Noodletown translated editor. Noodletown translated. Back in high school, Qin Chu was the most important person in Hua Mian's life, with whom she had experienced all sorts of emotions, infatuation, love, hate. Now, he had returned, 7 years after he disappeared without even saying goodbye. Moreover, he was proposing, at the worst time and location, to the wrong person. This was probably the single most preposterous thing Hua Mian had ever experienced. Qin Chu, stop it. We're not children anymore, Hua Mian's voice sounded hoarse as she turned her face away from him. I'm not joking around, Qin Chu stared at Hua Mian's familiar face as he reiterated. So you're just messing with my emotions. Are you enjoying yourself? Hua Mian laughed dryly, noticing the despair in her own voice. I'm not. So, you're telling me that you're serious? Hua Mian's fury turned into laughter as she looked at him, suddenly finding him ridiculous. Qin Chu didn't reply, but his expression said it all. Hua Mian took a deep breath in and pointed at him, fine, Qin Chu, repeat what you just said. Hua Mian, let's get married. He knew her well enough to repeat this statement immediately. Qin Chu, listen to me. I am getting married, but not to you. You need to stop living in a fantasy because it's never going to happen between us. Don't you remember me saying that even if all the men on this planet die, I'm still not going to get back together with you? You might not know this, but you're the only person I've ever hated. You hurt me and almost destroyed me, but you'll never understand how I felt because you're not me. You never lived through the nightmare that I have. So please, we each have our own lives now and I have a boyfriend who loves me more than anything in this world. Just leave, I never want to see you again. To me, you're just a spell that can never be broken, so I would rather go on with my life without you in it. Hua Mian thought that she had made herself very clear, so she turned around to head back upstairs. However, Qin Chu suddenly grabbed her arm. Let go of me. Qin Chu, what else do you want from me? Hua Mian barely finished her sentence before Qin Chu pulled her into his embrace. He hugged Hua Mian so hard that her head smashed right onto his broad chest. She smelled the light scent of a Versace brand cologne on his white shirt. For a second, Hua Mian felt extremely comfortable and familiar in his arms. Tears welled up in her eyes as memories flashed by. Surprised at herself, Hua Mian cursed in her head. Hua Mian, are you crazy? Don't you remember what this man did to you back then? He's the devil, so why are you wasting your time talking to him? You're about to get married to Ning Ziyuan now. Hua Mian suddenly came back to her senses at the thought of this. Chin Chu, let go of me, you asshole, or else I'm going to scream for help. Hua Mian threatened him as she furrowed her eyebrows. Yet, Chin Chu didn't seem to hear her. He closed his arms around her even more, unwilling to let go. He hugged her tightly as if he had retrieved a piece of lost treasure. Chin Chu was not a man of many words. He was happy just to be able to hold Hua Mian in his arms like this. Coming back, he had one goal. No one will ever break them up again, no one. Just then, Hua Mian heard a familiar voice behind her. What are you doing? Chapter 8. Misunderstanding. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Noodletown translated. Editor. Noodletown translated. Startled, Hua Mian turned around. Standing not far behind them was her boyfriend, Ning Ziyuan. He seemed to have just come off his night shift. In his hand were Hua Mian's favorite snacks, grilled corn, and iced cola. Hua Mian's mind finally snapped back into focus. Shoving Chin Chu away, she immediately explained, Ziyuan, it's not what it looks like. Please don't misunderstand. Let me explain, alright. Fine. I'm listening, explain. Surprisingly calm, Ning Ziyuan glanced back at Hua Mian. Then, his gaze shifted towards Chin Chu, who was standing behind Hua Mian. His eyes were filled with animosity. Ning Ziyuan knew Hua Mian very well and didn't think that she was the type to mess around behind his back. Hua Mian barely even used her WeChat, and her daily schedule was a line between home and work. She was an honest woman and therefore, he believed that there had to be a reason behind the scene he had just witnessed. Before Hua Mian made up her mind on how she should explain the situation to Ning Ziyuan, Chin Chu suddenly opened his mouth and spoke, Hua Mian, is mine. Upon hearing this, Hua Mian felt like her head was about to explode. She never thought that something as cliché as this would ever happen to her. She suddenly felt like this was some kind of sick cosmic joke. Having heard this declaration, the familiar tenderness drained away from Ning Ziyuan's eyes, and it was replaced by an icy chill. Chin Chu, what the hell are you talking about? Hua Mian was finally enraged. Mian. First, you tell me. Just who is he? Ning Ziyuan asked as he pointed at Chin Chu with a grim expression on his face. Ziyuan, listen to me. He's just, my, high school classmate. Hua Mian's voice clearly wavered as she spoke. Technically, she wasn't lying. It was indeed true that Chin Chu was her classmate for 3 years back in high school. Hua Mian, we were more than just classmates, weren't we? Why don't you tell him how we just kissed in the hotel bathroom? Chin Chu said cruelly, a haughty smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Having heard this, Ning Ziyuan's expression darkened. He felt his entire body going numb. I didn't. Hua Mian struggled to correct Chin Chu's distorted version of the truth. Hua Mian, don't lie. You can't lie about this when my scent is still on your lips. Chin Chu reached out and swept his forefinger across Hua Mian's lips in an extremely intimate and provocative motion. Then, Chin Chu glanced over at Ning Ziyuan again. You are Hua Mian's boyfriend, but has she ever told you about her past? He asked. Her past. Ning Ziyuan thought in surprise. It was true, Hua Mian never once mentioned her past to him. Aside from still being close friends with Zhu Lingling, Hua Mian never attended any reunion type of events, and he never asked her about it either. What, you didn't know? Hasn't she ever mentioned that, 7 years ago, there was a man she loved deeply? That person was me, Chin Chu said, enunciating each word. Hua Mian felt the old wound in her chest, long healed over, tearing open again with excruciating slowness. Hua Mian, tell me, is what he said true? Ning Ziyuan's voice was cold, no longer holding even a hint of warmth. Chapter 9. Cracks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Noodletown translated. Editor. Noodletown translated. No, Ziyuan, let me explain. It's not what you think it is. Usually, Huamian was a fairly composed woman. However, when it was about matters that touched upon the events from 7 years ago, her mind would completely scramble to the point that she'd struggle to even form words. Huamian, you're not a liar, so why lie to him? You should tell him everything that happened between us back then. Qin Chu's tone was overbearing. Huamian, let me ask you this. He's your ex-boyfriend, right? Did he, or did he not, just touch you? Did he kiss you? Well. Ning Ziyuan walked towards Huamian. In all the time that she'd known him, this was her first time seeing him this serious. The expression in his eyes was nearly murderous. Ning Ziyuan and Huamian had been together for a while, but the most they'd ever done was hold hands and kiss. They have not gone all the way yet. Perhaps it was because Huamian was a traditionalist at heart, and Ning Ziyuan, with marriage in mind, had been willing to hold it off. Now, upon hearing that the woman he had worshipped as a goddess had been tainted by another, he could no longer hold back his rage. A surge of unnameable fury soared up to Ning Ziyuan's chest, leaving him so enraged that his face drained of color. Huamian didn't want to lie to Ning Ziyuan. She had been kissed against her will. However, if she told him the truth now, wouldn't it just deepen his misunderstanding? Just as she struggled to figure out the best way to explain everything to Ning Ziyuan so it'd be easy for him to understand, Qin Chu's voice rang out again, like that of the devil out of hell. Looks like you didn't know that we slept together 7 years ago either. Qin Chu's words were like a bomb, completely shattering what little remained of Huamian's senses. She would have never, in a million years, thought that Qin Chu would bring up what happened 7 years ago so nonchalantly, and with such an indifferent expression on his face. This wasn't supposed to happen. It didn't feel like something Qin Chu would do. Had the last 7 years turned him into another person altogether? Qin Chu, when did you become so shameless? Stunned, Huamian could no longer form a complete sentence. That, you bastard. What did you say? Ning Ziyuan demanded, eyes red, as he grabbed Qin Chu's collar with one hand. The cola and grilled corn he had been holding were tossed aside. A smile tugged at the corners of Qin Chu's lips as he glanced over at Huamian casually. Looks like you two haven't gotten that far yet. It seems like Huamian doesn't actually like you that much, heh? Asshole. What did you say? I'm going to ****ing kill you. With that, Ning Ziyuan hurled his fist at Qin Chu's face. Qin Chu, on the other hand, dodged aside with great agility. Immediately after, Ning Ziyuan charged over and threw another punch. This time, it was too quick to react to, striking Qin Chu before he even saw it coming. Qin Chu stumbled back several steps. Wiping a smudge of blood from the corner of his lips, he said in a cold voice, I'll take this punch since you've been taking care of Huamian for me for the last few years. But you're not going to get another chance. Alright, then hit me back. Come on, asshole. What gives you the right to treat Mian like that? Even if you are her ex, it's all in the past. Why the hell did you come back looking for her? Ning Ziyuan was nearly mad with rage. He had to admit that his mind shattered when he heard Qin Chu say that Huamian slept with him 7 years ago. 7 years ago. How old was Huamian then? 18. She was still a high school student. No man could ever withstand being challenged by such a formidable adversary in a relationship. Ning Ziyuan was no exception. Ignoring Qin Chu's warning, he charged at him like a crazed beast. This time, however, Qin Chu didn't dodge. Instead, he threw a punch at Ning Ziyuan's face as he rushed at him, sending Ning Ziyuan crashing to the ground. Chapter 10. Tragedy. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Translator. Noodletown translated editor. Noodletown translated Ziyuan. Are you alright? Terrified, Huamian immediately ran over, trying to help Ning Ziyuan to his feet with painstaking care. To her surprise, however, Ning Ziyuan forcefully shoved her to the side, and she nearly fell to the ground. Get lost, it's none of your business. You immoral woman. Don't touch me. You make me sick. Huamian's face was now streaked with tears. She shook her head, hurt. I didn't, Ziyuan. I didn't betray you. Please believe me. Those were all things that happened in the past. It's already over between him and me. Believe you. About what? That you're still a virgin. Ning Ziyuan mocked, wiping the blood off his bottom lip. Huamian looked down, her lashes veiling her eyes. She didn't reply. Why aren't you saying anything? Is he wrong? You're not going to tell me that you're still untouched, are you? Ning Ziyuan demanded, his gaze full of disdain as he glared at Huamian. No, he's right. I was with him 7 years ago. But it's all in the past now. Ziyuan, would you let me explain? I'll tell you everything that happened between us. Pa. A sharp sound cut through the air as Ning Ziyuan raised a hand and struck Huamian's left cheek hard. Immediately, a burning pain surged up where the slap had landed. Beside them, Qin Chu's pupils contracted sharply. Deep in his eyes were hints of heartbreak. She reached out to hold Ning Ziyuan, but he pushed her aside. Huamian, I thought you were a decent girl, someone I could grow old with. I truly wanted to marry you and build a life together. I never thought that you'd be one of those tramps. I must have been blind. To think that I spent so much time courting you in college, not daring to touch you like you were some kind of goddess, I've got to be ing blind. Ning Ziyuan laughed. Ing played me, bitch. Ziyuan. You can hit me or curse at me all you like. None of that's important. You're hurt, let's go to the hospital first, alright. Huamian stumbled to her feet, trying to help Ning Ziyuan up, but he shoved her again. Don't touch me, Huamian. Get your filthy hands off me. You're not taking me anywhere. Get lost. I never want to see you again. Get out of here. Finishing his bellowing rant, Ning Ziyuan crawled up from the ground like an injured animal and took off. Huamian stood in place, sobbing silently. She didn't know why things had turned out like this. Hadn't fate tormented her enough? Didn't she already pay the price for what happened 7 years ago? Why force her like this? Why couldn't she just live like a normal person? All she wanted was to live an ordinary life, nothing more. Huamian, come back to me. Marry me. Qin Chu's voice sounded from behind her, relentless. His statement was not a discussion, nor a plea. It was an order, one that didn't seem to have any room for objections. Huamian knew that the Qin family had that kind of power. People from the Qin family were privileged from birth, and in this city, they were virtually gods and could do whatever they wanted to. 7 years ago, she'd learned this the hard way, and brutally paid for her mistakes. It seemed that, like her, it wasn't over for Qin Chu either.